What a round, what a fight this has been.
Fight of the night, fight of the year.
You have witnessed history here tonight.
Seriously, who's going to stop him?
It's hammer time. Welcome to our world, the world of kickboxing, for all the news, views and insights into our great sport. Joining me, the former national champion, Mark the Hammer Castaneda. You've been pumped all day, big fella.
I have, Andy. Such good feedback from the previous week's shows. There's so much good happening. The Facebook page has been going off, so it's all good.
The industry itself is on a real high at the moment. Domestically, Evolution is returning in Queensland, and internationally, Glory this weekend in New York featuring Steve McKinnon.
Yeah, that's right, Andy. Of course, Evolution coming back on the 31st of August. Australia versus Thailand. They're amassing an awesome card with some of the best fighters in the country, no doubt about it. And already the hype has started so far out. And of course, then we back up with Glory coming up this weekend. Steve McKinnon, probably the biggest challenge of his career, I'd almost say, in New York. It doesn't get any bigger than that. It's all good. It's great stuff for us.
It certainly is. Plenty happening in the world of kickboxing, plenty happening on tonight's show. This is What's Ahead. We've got the carnage, Nathan Corbett, in the studio with us. Every question asked, no answer avoided. We'll also take a look at the recent Legends fight series. Closer to home, plenty happening on the domestic scene, and we're going to start our reviews and previews in Queensland at Muay Thai at the Metro 7. It was on 1st of June, but there was nothing cold about it, a warm old night.
It was. The Muay Thai at the Metro events are getting bigger each time. Ian Bronson's putting a lot of hard work into it. He showcases a lot of the up-and-coming talent from Queensland, and I think what really gets me excited about these events is that when you see the young guys coming up and showing such well-rounded skills and displaying it for all and sundry to see, it's a great representation of our sport, and there were some great fights on that card.
Yeah, guys like Ben Mahoney and Andy Smith turned on a cracker. As we take a look at it, Mahoney in the blue gloves, Smith in the red gloves.
Mahoney with the dark shorts is one of John Wayne Parr's fighters, a relatively young fighter. I think he's barely 18 years of age.
Hammer, the hair. What doing there?
Well, you know, it's all for the show, it's all for the fans, but Mahoney there, you see him throwing the 1-2. He goes to the body, goes upstairs and displays such maturity in his fighting, well beyond his years.
Always a little difficult when you get a righty versus a lefty in there, and at different times these guys were taking different stances, as we just saw. You get the front arms tangled, the front legs tangled. But when they both went back into that orthodox stance, as you can see now, there was a lot of planting of the feet and letting him go.
Sure, Andy Smith, a hard night at the office for him. He had the do all sorted for the night, but did it the hard way, and Mahoney just exhibiting some great skills. Gets a big KO victory. A
lot to like about young Benny Mahoney, isn't there?
Yeah,
like tough and talented. And you don't always get that combination.
No, well, and it comes back to he's had such a good foundation.
Yep.
You know, he's been tutored the right way. He's put in the hard work at the gym. There's a lot of distractions for young guys around, and in this sport you can't be distracted, because you've seen the result in the ring. If you drop your game and you have an opening there for your opponent, well, you know, it can end very badly for you. But Mahoney, very focused, very disciplined and very well-rounded technically.
A lot of distractions for us older fellas too, I'll give you the tip. But the headline act undeniably was Aaron TS2 Lee. Top quality young guy in against Jordan Godfredson here. It is Godfredson in the black, Lee in the white.
Again, Godfredson from Darren Kurovic's gym in WA, so it was Western Australia versus Queensland, arguably two of the strongest Muay Thai states in the country. So, you know, this main event with Aaron Lee back in action. Look, to be honest with you, and I'll be frank, I thought the young Godfredson was going to have a hard night at the office, but he equipped himself so well, and props to him, you know, full respect. Such a young man, again, doing so well. Look at that beautifully executed push kick from the boy from Perth. Aaron Lee, tough as you like. You know, that's why the crowd in Queensland love him. He's such a crowd pleaser, never takes a backward step. And it was a tough old fight for him, but a thoroughly entertaining one.
Always is with Aaron Lee involved. He got his hand raised in victory. Another, well, we call him one of ours now, who had his hand raised in victory, Jabbar Askarov, who we had on the show just a couple of weeks ago, was part of the biggest ever kickboxing event in Russia. It was big dollars,
huge,
big prestige, was a four-man eliminator, and our man...
Jabbar coming off that very controversial loss in his mind to Steve McKinnon, and a lot of people after seeing the vision...
Steve Moxon.
Yeah, sorry, Steve Moxon, of course. Seeing that loss, really thought that Jabbar could have got the nod, you know, and that just shows the difference in you know, different angles looking at fights. So
that is a really good window into the mindset of Jabbar Askarov. He was disappointed with the loss to Moxon. He didn't let it get him down, not for too long anyway. He regrouped, reset, restarted, and this is the result of victory here.
And, you know, what Jabbar's doing now is changing the southpaw stance. He is an orthodox fighter, but he's swapped and he's equipped himself really well in that southpaw stance. Look at that, $50,000 US. That's going to get him by a little bit.
It's US dollars?
It is US dollars, so $50,000 US he's taking home. And his new strategy, his new game plan, switching southpaw. I know his right hand, through years and years of hard fighting, has paid the price. So he's readjusted, he's reinvented himself.
Do you agree with it? Someone reversing stances. We see it work, but gee, we see a lot of it times when it fails.
You really have to get it right. Yep. And the thing with Jabbar is he's done it so well. And we saw the result of his power kicking now off that left leg. So he's just chopping out the back leg, which is never as conditioned as your lead thigh, and also the inside thigh, because it opens up that angle.
Yep.
So such a clever strategy from Jabbar. And you know what? It's paid off. 50,000. You know, that's great. That'll see me through for, well, probably 5 years, I reckon.
for about 5 nights, depending on how big the nights are. Now, one guy, we spoke of Jabbar and what a thinker he is. One guy that is a genuine thinker on the domestic circuit is arguably our #1 man in Nathan Carnage Corbett. He is a 10-time world champion, 61-odd fights, 59-odd wins, and he's joining us live in the studio. An outstanding resume and highlight reel. Nathan, do you reflect on your career while you're still fighting, or is that something you do when you're retired and enjoying the beach a little more?
Yeah, not very often I reflect, but every now and then I might see a clip on Facebook or someone's posted something on YouTube, or a fan has done a highlight clip up and I watch it. And only a few months ago someone had done one up with like a 9-minute clip, and I started watching it and surprised me. There was fights on there I forgot I even had, you know, back like 10 years ago, and I was just like, oh wow, like fights in Japan.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's quite exciting, but you're always forward thinking, you know, and you sort of forget where you've come from and what you've done, but it's always good to reflect back and sort of reinvent and, you know, get yourself pumped again.
You've been somewhat busier now than in the past, I think, with the Total Carnage events happening. Your last opponent, Sokolowski, I suppose was in some ways a little bit disappointing for the fans, because they didn't really get the chance to see you open up and you know, go those few extra rounds. It was an early finish to the night. The elbows did the job for you yet again. Are you just grateful to get the early finish, or do you want to have a good hit out in front of your home crowd?
Yeah, no, you're right, Hammer. It did leave me a little bit sort of, you know, disappointed and kind of like a little bit lost in a lot of ways after the fight for a few weeks. It kind of didn't really sit right with me, especially after Total Carnage 1 and 2 being 2 5-round fights, you know, which was great for most production of the show, start fighting, and haven't gone 5 rounds since 2005. So to get back in the ring again for Total Carnage 3 into the last 10 seconds was certainly not on the, you know, on the plans of what I would have imagined for a perfect fight. Round 3 or 4 would have been nice, but I definitely wanted a knockout, but 10 seconds is a bit quick.
Is there an emotional letdown for a fighter post-fight when you win something but you're not completely fulfilled?
Yeah, there is. There's such a roller coaster ride, you know, and that was such a big build-up, you know, the 10th world title shot at home, 10 years prior to my first world title, so there was a lot of history there, and just to have that emotion and build up over, you know, such a long period, anticipation, nerves, and everything, and then just to be over that quick, it can really leave you a little bit sort of empty, and a little bit lost at times.
Let me ask you this: the matchmaking, when it comes down to actually picking your opponent, who does that? Who says this is the guy you're going to fight?
Yeah, look, that's definitely something that I wanted to make sure that being a part of the team, that I don't look like I've picked any of my opponents like in the past. I've always fought for different promoters. So when it comes to, well, the Total Carnage 1, 2 and 3, the first one was a WKN World Title defence. The WKN, they chose the opponent. The second fight obviously being McKinnon, that was quite clear that, that no one had to pick that one. That was the build-up over 6 years. And the third fight again, WKN. So they pretty much sort of select the opponent, saying, well, you're defending your title, this is who we're putting up, and that's who you've got to fight. So I just sort of avoid the media and the hype, and I'm not a really big sort of Facebook user and sort of on the forums or anything like that. I'm sort of in the background just doing my thing and just fighting on the shows that I can get on, the big ones, and just getting matched to whoever the you know is available at the time.
Well, of course, when you say fighting on the big shows, we're having a look at some of the highlights. There's some really great memories there. Some really, you know, solid challenges as well. Stefan Saspaghieri, I suppose, is one of my favourite fights for you of late. There's been so many, but that one I thought, you know, and talking to him out the back, they were really cool. And I thought, I'll see how this one's going to go. But surprisingly, he came good and really put it on you in front of your home crowd. So that was great for the crowd on hand.
Yeah, no, Stefan was just such a, you know, an unassuming kind of guy, you know, this kind of guy that you're at the press conference and you just can't hate the guy like that, you know. You just sort of like, okay, friendly guy, and obviously when we got in the ring it was all business, but there was no attitude. And just such an awkward fighter, but very intelligent, you know, so his awkwardness, intelligence and his skill, you know, all together made for just a really different fight for me, you know, where I had to really think and change. In first 2 rounds I was frustrated, and then coming into round 3 I settled into the fight, and as you can see in like 3, 4 and 5, even switching to southpaw myself just to give it a few different angles.
They caught you with a couple of surprising shots.
You know, I was kind of busted up after the fight. I had like, you know, cut here, and I had like 3 little cuts which I hadn't had for a long time, and you know, I look worse for wear than probably he did. But to do that on, like I said, the first show that we produced, and to defend my world title and make it go 5 rounds, when we talk about the 10-second fight, as opposed to that fight, that was really, you know, fulfilling, rewarding, and just felt like the champion that night, and really earned my stripes, so it was good.
Time for a quick breather here on Hammer Time. After the break, the Nathan Corbett story continues. The carnage is hanging around. He'll give us an insight on the now famous fight with Tyrone Spong and a whole lot more right here on Hammer Time. Welcome back to Hammer Time. Joining us is 10-time world champion Nathan Corbett, who's stopped 8 of his last 12 opponents, which begs me to ask the question, does genuine power come with maturity as a fighter?
Yeah, I mean, definitely over the years, you know, you definitely generate more power with the training and such. But I think accuracy is the key now, you know, when you get that maturity, the more accurate you are with your shots, and you can sort of put people away.
One of the fights that did go the duration was your fight with Steve McKinnon. It was fight number 2 and a long time in the making.
Yeah, no, it was a cracker of a fight, and like we spoke about earlier, you know, it was one of those fights that Australia's been, you know, begging for, and opponents over the last 6 years, and Facebooks and you know, forums and the big chat about it. So it was always going to be a tough fight for myself, and I was just happy to have it on the Gold Coast on the Total Carnage show, and we put on a really good show for the fans that night, and you know, went the distance. But yeah, happy with the result. It was a good win.
Well, let me say this, of course, Steve McKinnon now showcasing his wares on the big Glory events, and they really are the biggest shows in the world at the moment in Muay Thai and kickboxing. How are you feeling about trying to get on the Glory schedule and maybe meeting McKinnon or any of those top-level fighters that are amassing on that card now?
Yeah, no, I see that, you know, McKinnon, since my fight, has got a contract with Glory, and, you know, that's great for McKinnon to go over there and and featuring, you know, this weekend coming up in that big tournament. So that's going to be amazing for him. My focus really, you know, in the past 12 months has been building Total Carnage promotions and really putting myself into those shows. But definitely the interest of fighting on Glory, but probably not just the one-off fight. I definitely want to get matched against, you know, some big names. You know, I'm not really interested in just fighting, you know, any one of the numbers on there. I'd probably go after the, you know, the Spongs or the, you know, the Sakis or something.
Let me ask you about, you just mentioned Tyrone Spong, and of course champions are champions too. So much controversy. On the forums, the fans are all calling out for you to match up against Spong again. After that, I thought it was a win. It was called a no decision bout.
Yeah.
Such controversy around that fight in Jamaica.
Oh, mate, that night was crazy, Hammer. You know, you were there, and thank God you were there backing me up on the commentary, you know, and, you know, as I watch on and have a look at it, just reminds me of that night. And, you know, I put it on the line that night. You know, I stepped up from 86 kilos to 93 and took the challenge with no elbows as well, and got in there. And, you know, it was a tough fight. It was the first time I'd ever sort of been pushed backwards, and he did rock me with that punch, and it's a great fight. And then come round 3, I just, you know, switched into southpaw and become, you know, a different fighter, and got that knockout. But, yeah, crazy result at the end.
Here it comes, the third round. And there is the right hand. And it was a lead right hand because, Nath, you had switched to southpaw, as you said. So it was, in fact, still your power punch, but your lead punch.
Yeah, that's right. I went to southpaw to stay away from his right hand, you know, and just started kicking that back guard. And as he came in, just, drove the backhand through. And then as I hooked over the top with the right, it just chinned him. So
it certainly didn't stop there. The controversy, it's time to relive the controversy from Spong and Corbett.
Counts him. Spong is rocked on rubber legs. Can he go on? Can he go on?
Have a look at this.
Can he go on?
Have a look at this.
It's over. It's over.
It's all over.
Oh, what's Carnage doing? What is Carnage doing after Polo Tocha waved it off?
Bit of confusion there, bit of confusion.
Oh, that's just terrible sportsmanship. I'm sorry. Let's have a look. Polo Tocha talking to Spong, saying you're not okay to go on. Spong saying I am. He waves it off clearly in front of Carnage. No. And just that is
no,
just
that's Michael. That
Hammer,
was, you have a look at where Paulo was. Paulo's hands were not high enough when he waved it on. He didn't wave it off up high. He waved it off down low, and that was where the confusion is. So if anything is to be said here, it was that the fight was not waved off correctly.
But Hammer,
and no, let me finish. And he wasn't facing Carnage at the time.
As controversial as it gets, time for your explanation, Nate.
It's exciting watching that. You know, like I said, Hammer, thanks for backing me up on that one. And, you know, it depends what camera angle you look at. When I look at that angle, I'm thinking, what was I thinking? He clearly called the fight off. And on the night, I was looking at my corner. It was exciting. I just seen the referee step out of the way, and all I saw was a hand, like, almost like go in. And I just sort of went for the tack. I thought I saw his hands up, which meant he was taking guard to fight. And, you know, and obviously ended with it like that. Been, you know, if I'd known that the fight was called off, you know, just like I said, I was trying to back myself for the night, saying I wouldn't have done it. There's no need for it, you know. If you've knocked you out, it's all over. But at least I got to knock him out twice, so that's pretty cool.
It was a bit of a travesty of justice on that one, and a bit of a blemish on your record. But nevertheless, it makes for the hype on the rematch. And the interesting footnote of that one is the centre referee was actually Mr. Muay Thai in the movie Bloodsport for the old movie buffs.
There you go.
Old mate, they come out like that. Well, that was him. So, but one of the biggest mistakes he's ever made in his refereeing career, I'd say.
Nath, thoughts on Gokhan Saki?
Mate, Gokhan Saki, he's such a strong, aggressive and loose fighter, you know. He just has so much power, he just swings hard.
This is him in the red gloves here, and a great illustration of his power.
Yeah, he's so explosive, you know. Everything he does is explosive. He looks like he's always carrying weight, like you wouldn't expect it from him. He's just so powerful. He moves in with, you know, aggression and great combinations of high-lows. He's an all-round fighter, you know, in the K1 sense. You know, it's a shame that, you know, these boys don't fight Thai, but that's what they do. They're K1 fighters. Well,
Niccolo Spong, who's fighting Saki in this clip, is also a name that's been thrown around for you, maybe on the Kings of Combat event or one of those up-and-coming shows, maybe even your own. So is he another opponent that you may look at?
Yeah, Niccolo Spong is a tough journeyman. You know, he's German, and you know, this fight here, you can see Saki's, you know, takes him to town, but he's had a lot of good fights against a lot of super heavyweights, and he's one of those tough kind of boys that, you know, if you don't knock him out, he's going to keep coming forward and maybe land one.
Who's at the top of your wish list? With elbows, who do you want to fight? In a perfect world.
Tyrone Spong. I'd have to say Tyrone Spong because, you know, there is that, you know, that whole, like, I thought McKinnon, there'd be that rematch, and with Spong would be that rematch. So the hype would be there to start
Absolutely.
with. I'd be able to fight with elbows, to, you know, so when he comes in with his strength, I could clash with the elbow and have my full game. Outside of him would probably be Gohan Saki because they're the closest guys I feel in that big name realm to my weight division. You know, I wake up in the morning at 95 kilos, you know, I'm not 105 cutting weight, so if there was a 90 kilo division, I'd be fighting there, but there isn't, so, you know, stepping up in weight all the time. But those two guys are probably the biggest names, they're the closest as far as height and weight is concerned with some aggressive style. But with the elbows, I think it would be a different fight.
Yep.
Let's sort of, for the viewers, let's take a bit of a trip back to where it all started for you. Obviously, a background in martial arts and you trained extensively in a traditional martial art, so just a little bit of an overview, I suppose.
Yeah, I started martial arts when I was 14. It's kind of like the Karate Kid story, you know? Getting a fight at school on the playground and you want to learn how to fight. And actually, I wanted to box first and my dad said, no, you're not boxing, that's a bugs game. And so I was like, oh, OK. So I started karate and that was sort of the, you know, the birth of my whole martial art career, which I'm grateful for. And yeah, through that, just, you know, doing the basic, you know, traditional karate, like you said, and then moving into Muay Thai, and obviously finding that more enjoyable as a contact sport.
OK, what's happening for Total Carnage 4?
Total Carnage 4, we've got November 30 set for the Gold Coast at the end of the year. Probably a Spong or a Saki fight probably wouldn't happen, you know. They're very restricted to their contracts with Glory. They're probably getting massive money as well. Australia just couldn't accommodate, you know, as far as TV or even audience would be concerned. So a fight like that probably wouldn't happen. Again, Total Carnage is about Muay Thai, so I'm going to fight definitely Thai boxing rules. I mean, I built my career on elbows.
Absolutely.
So it's a shame when I have to give up, you know, my specialty. I'm a complete fighter, but I do really enjoy having my elbows there if I need them.
Let me ask you this, you know, we've spoken about the so many different rules and styles of fighting and all the rest of it, and now we're seeing guys stepping in, you know, with the MMA gloves, some guys transitioning over to UFC or MMA. You know, we've got the cage fighting, you know, CMT, the boys. Would that be something you would try with the smaller gloves?
Well, definitely not. Definitely, I wouldn't fight in like a UFC style of format. You know, I'm not a wrestler. I don't know jiu-jitsu, and any smart MMA fighter will just take you straight down and either pound you on the ground or tie you up. You know, so you know, I respect what they do, and what I do is Muay Thai. You know, so I don't claim to be anything else but a Muay Thai fighter. What Wayne's doing is very exciting in the cage. Is it for me? I don't think so. You know, if there was standing submissions like shoot boxing, that would be more exciting, I think, for that rule. But I like Muay Thai. I'm 10 times Muay Thai world champion, and I'm going to just retire fighting that.
No need to stray.
Rule. You know what I mean? I'm 33. I don't need to try and stray out now and reinvent the wheel for myself. This is who I am, like Mayweather's and stuff like that. In boxing, they stick to what they do and what they know, and they finish on top. OK,
when you finally do call it a day, you're 33 now, who's the next generation that impresses you most, that's going to take your place at the upper levels of the industry?
Well, at this stage in Australia, there's definitely no heavyweights that, you know, I can see coming through, so I look more towards the lighter guys, and Tomahawk's my favourite fighter at the moment. You know, he's... I've been watching this kid for... He's not even a kid anymore, he's 24, but when I started, you know, seeing him fight 5 years ago, and he always impressed me with his style. He was very aggressive and, you know, similar to myself in a lot of ways in the earlier days, but he's got all the Thai techniques, he fights the Thais, he goes for it. And that's why we've had him on Total Carnage the last few shows. We're going to promote him as much as we can. We got him the world title fight. You know, he won that nice WKN world title on the last show. On that very note, let's take a look at Mikey Thompson and from Total Carnage 3.
He looks the business, doesn't he? Thomas Mikowski.
Looks like he's worn a couple of jabs in his day.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I tell you what, Andy, this... A lot of the people ringside are saying this is going to be the fight of the night. He's ripped and shredded and in top condition, this Polish challenger.
He's got that explosion. Gee, heavy kicks from both guys, in particular Thompson early.
Thompson really generating a lot of power with his kicking.
Oh,
especially that one there, right to the thigh. Oh, and he's kicked him on the thigh, and it looks to be Either a dislocated knee is pointing to behind the knee area.
His knee's facing a different direction to when he walked into the ring. People around ringside, they're suggesting you could hear the noise of a broken bone. You could hear the cracking.
Yeah, dramatic and very confrontational. Mikey Tomahawk Thompson and Nathan Corbett both victorious on 3, but 4 is your next assignment, officially anyway at the moment, and I guess you can't wait for November.
Yeah, November 30. I'm always the Gold Coast, you know, it's my hometown, so it's exciting to always fight there, and we've done our, our first 3 shows there, and so November 30 is the date. Haven't got the full card matched yet and all that's a few months away, so working back from there. Well, you won't get any bigger name than Nathan Corbett on the show, but next week we've found a bigger frame. The Sting, Paul Slawinski, joins us here. So much to talk about with his career possibly at the crossroads. The big super heavyweight joining us in the studio. Nathan, a pleasure. Hammer, always a pleasure. We hope you enjoy the time. We'll see you next week on Hammer Time.